All right, so this is going to be the most recent game for Viper on his main account. That's right, Viper been having a break from the main. He's been sinking on the rankings a bit. He's gone down to 56 for 1,662 elo rating. And it seems he decided to take a break. He is still playing Age of Empires 4, don't worry. We're not going to lose one of the champs. But he's been playing mainly on his Smurf Trebuchet. So this is the last game. It's from 3 days ago, I believe, at the time of recording, before he just switched mainly into grinding out on the Smurf again. Reason being, by the way, folks, for those that don't understand why, why don't you just play on your main account, is it's not just about experimenting with new civs. It's actually about the way that these tournaments, the moneymaker, the way that Viper and the other pros actually make a living, the way that they invite players. The way they've been inviting players, or the way they're showing intent to invite players, is usually based on your ladder placement, right, on the ladder, your ranking. So usually it's going to be like, I don't know, the top half of the, like, say you got 64 people, maybe like 32 of them invited based on seed alone, and then you have like a qualifier for the others, that kind of stuff, right? So it's important to actually have one of your accounts in that top area. And it feels like maybe for Viper, I think when he stopped doing the games on his main, he was probably up at like 30-ish, but now he's been pushed down to the 50 range. So that just seems to be why he's chosen for that switch up. But this, like I said, is going to be on the main account. We're going to have France versus HRE. HRE, this is going to be a peculiar one. We haven't seen too much of them on the new patch. A lot of people feeling like they got overall nerfed. And a lot of people just generally frustrated with the fact that they didn't seemingly get any real buffs. There are a few small buffs, usually around interactions and different damage values, like the Elsbach Palace now correctly receiving its 33% damage reduction. I believe they nerfed the crap out of the emergency repairs. At least they bumped up the time it takes. They also nerfed two-handed weapons tech so that men-at-arms were no longer getting plus 15 health. I have heard some rumors that there's some bugs currently with HRE Spearman as well, but I've yet to witness them myself. And I think the other things that were changed was the bonus damage for heavy maces and two-handed weapons has now been fixed so they stack correctly. So that part was a buff, but you have to reach it. And I think the biggest buff to the early game, of course, is that these lads here, Mr. Baldylocks, doesn't get jolted in the side, an elbow in the hip, and suddenly forget what his role was in life. Like, I don't know, some sort of like early onset Alzheimer's. Because what was happening before, for those that don't know, is if you accidentally have one of your units bump into them, like run past them. You know when units push past each other, they kind of nudge each other. If that happened, the prelates would seemingly forget how to inspire people. It's almost like they lost their confidence, like someone kicked them in the gonads and they just didn't believe anymore. But I do believe in these type of timers. Cheech already getting what he needs for the tech up. Viper's going to be a little bit behind him, but he has gathered more gold. And he is playing France, so he's already in a prep situation that when he techs up, he'll be able to start spamming out the knights from the School of Cavalry. This is going to be interesting to see, considering what I was just saying about Spearman having some issues with the functionality right now, should we say. I don't know, I didn't get like the details. I just noticed a few threads talking about HRE Spearman being bugged. People weren't going into much detail. I wonder if it's similar to the issue that Delhi are having where the troops don't brace right now. If so, that's going to be a big deal against a cavalry-based faction such as France. But excited to see HRE nonetheless. You know, you can still play that tight stacked economy. We talked about actually a very good HRE player will make it almost impossible for even a civ like France to punish you in the other game because you keep it so kind of tight, right? However, if he's going to keep it tight by walling, I do hope he notices this. This is probably one of the most interesting generations I've actually seen on French Pass, simply because of this pass here, folks. I mean, it almost feels like I'm being biased towards Viper here if I say it, but I do want to see this pass become like a pivotal moment in the game. And actually, I'll say it won't even be biased towards Viper, because this could be used by Cheech as well to defend, right, when his opponent wraps around the low ground. I do hope someone notices and takes advantage of this, though, because this is a really cool generation. I do wish this was an occurrence on both sides, though, to make it fairer. It's kind of silly that it's only on Cheech's side, so for him to utilize it effectively in some way, he's going to be on the defensive. And knowing he's going to be on the defensive, already building that barracks, it's more or less always the choice for HRE players early. Ever since they nerfed the Horseman, Stables just doesn't feel as viable, to be honest with you. So no surprise that he's done this instead. So Cheech will finally reach that fuel age. Viper can be a little bit behind him. He has committed 5 workers onto this, but now you've got that Inspire and all that area. Now, this is branching out a little. This is the kind of efficient value you want. I really love this placement of the Arkan Chapel by Cheech. He's covering the berry line, he's covering the stone line, and he's covering the gold line. And the berry line is completely covered, right? Remember, they have to come to drop off. As soon as they get in range of dropping off, they're being inspired. So really cool placement overall. He will need an outpost down, and I'm kind of surprised at Cheech for not doing that yet. It looks like he hasn't got enough wood, so I'm hoping that's just the issue, and he does immediately build into an outpost once he has 100. Because otherwise, this gold line is going to be sniped. And it won't be pretty. Like, you're playing against France, especially. But interestingly, different approach out of Viper is not going for the Royal Knights. No, he's going for the Scouts. I can kind of see where he's coming from, right? With the buffs to Spearman, it's a lot harder to find value out of Knights early. Also, you're playing against HRE. Viper's played some HRE himself. He knows how feasible it is to play a tight economy against French players. So he doesn't want to risk this investment of a few hundred gold in the early game and have it turn into nothing when he could have used it to scale his economy. Yeah, he'll get the vision, the DL in this area. I don't think he hung around long enough to see the Spearman coming out. Actually, with the range, I think maybe he just about got a glimpse of it. So probably he's just going to back off, just try and keep these scouts split up and keeping vision on what Cheech is doing. So he knows if he ever tries to expand, if he knows if he tries to go double TC, and him himself will go double TC, right? This is the thing that we were going to bring it into, is that for France, I feel it's a lot easier to go multi-TC than it is for HRE. HRE, because of that aforementioned tight economy, right? Where you want to keep everything packed up together, close by. And obviously, with the increased efficiency, it's actually on the French player to build a second TC to keep up with your gather rates. Because, of course, you're getting that buffed 40% gather rate as well as 40% capacity on the workers, as you can see here. So Carcass is now being dragged in. Cheech did go for that professional scouts, so more intent shown to just play a tight economy. I expect Viper to do something similar, especially when he's been spamming out the scouts. He might as well get the value. And he is. He's yoinking from his opponent's side as well. I love this. Viper just big brain right now. He knows Cheech doesn't want to expand out to these areas. He could if he wants to as France. We've seen France time and time again do pocket economies onto the deer lines. But he knows that confidently he can go snatch from his opponent and he doesn't have to worry about him coming to his side of the map. Right now, Cheech, everything he's planning is going to be defensively oriented. It's going to be about what he can do on his side of the map. He's not really looking to eyeball up what Viper's doing. Because outside of scouting it, there's nothing else you can do. You're not going to go for an early rush play as HRE. I mean, especially even more so considering Rams being nerfed recently, right? It just seems even more irrelevant of a strategy for HRE to try and engage with. So Spearman just scouting around. And he has found that pocket route, right? Viper found it as well, so they both know about this. Interesting to see if that will get walled up in the coming minutes. And Archers switch up into France. Just the standard move, right? You go into Knights early, and then you go into Archers. Of course, Viper said, why not just jump the gun on this one? Screw the Knights. I'm going to go straight to phase 2, straight into the Archers, please. I wonder, is Cheech isn't even considering a second TC? I feel like this is a bit of a mistake, but he's being, like, I understand why, right? Like, he wants to go ring this cathedral, so I guess I can forgive it in that regard. He's already building into it. The only reason I feel like this is a mistake is, like, I've got this feeling Viper's going to trip TC, and I think then you're going to be behind. And on terms of these Relic placements, like, Viper knows them, right? Surely Viper playing against a HRE player, as soon as he sees the tech up is done, he's going to move troops out there. And right now, you're only producing into Spearmen, so he'll guard them with Archers. So I feel like if you want to be doing this move, Viper, maybe, like, against Viper, maybe the move is to actually send out Prelates early on. But right now, I think, has he even got Prelates on the move? No, it looks like he hasn't at all. So I think he's got one spare. Surely he's got one. Come on. Don't tell me you've got only one prelate. Okay, he has got one prelate hanging around here. So I think this one prelate is likely to make the move, if I can relocate him. I just selected him a moment ago. Ah, he's moving out. That's why. I'm blind. So yeah, this one prelate will move to the center one, because basically you want 3 of these relics. The problem that you have with your Cheech is actually, if you look at the locations, you've only got one that's relatively safe. He has already sent troops to guard it. Interesting choice, considering I'd say there's more risky ones that need to be protected. Second prelate coming out now. In fact, he unbanked from the Arkan Chapel. Interesting. I think the reason he does this, by the way, as opposed to making, like, for example, a third prelate, is like, what value do you have as HRE afterwards for that many prelates? There's not much. Initially, the Arkham Chapel is providing, you know, all that influence you need. And if you stop off for more prelates, that's less villages you're producing. And you're against France, right? France that already gets that quicker production speed on the villages per age down by 1 second. And you have to anticipate that with no aggression into your base, it's probably a double TC move from the French player as well. So Prelate will pick up the Relic. If Viper holds it, oh my god. He's going to spot this. He's actually going to spot this and snipe this. And 4 archers will be enough to kill off this old man. Remember, Prelate moves at 1 tile compared to the 1.25 on these archers. And Cheech, he's about to spot them on the high ground. Forces the engagement, and that might cover the Prelate to move away. It is, in fact, Viper. I don't know if he came here waiting for the Prelate as much as just to control the pass, but it does mean that Cheech is going to bank this Relic at least. And in fact, has already banked the one from the bottom corner, so just needs one more for that maximum value out of the Regnitz Cathedral, and he's good. And he's sending it to the north. You can already see a Spearman's been guarding up here, so he knows Viper hasn't been in the neighborhood. Viper's scouting around now, but going to be too late to really influence this. I mean, a scout, I think the scout will beat out 1 Spearman. At least it would have on the previous patch. But with the buffed up damage, I mean, I think maybe you could still lose 1 scout quicker than you kill the Spearman. And maybe I'm overrating how powerful they are. But I think we're going to find out in a sec either way. And the Wolves also getting down from Cheech. I like this move. Because you're that slow-moving old man carrying that Relic, right? What you want is this kind of halfway point of protection. Not only is it going to be protection for future endeavors, but it's also going to ensure that once the Prelate's past this walls, he won't be harassed. The problem he has is that Viper is moving across now, and he's going to see this being built. And that should tip him off on what's coming. And you can see the Knights moving out towards the Relic location already. So this is going to be problematic. Cheech might not be able to get his hands on a further Relic. Meanwhile, Viper just being wolfed on in the center. So vision game right now, definitely looking better for Viper. Viper just having prioritized vision and control now on the most important elements, which is going to be those Relics. But still, at this stage, I mean, you've got 2. You're kind of content with that. If an HRE player gets 2 Relics for the Regnitz Cathedral, you know, obviously, you're a greedy boy. You love to have 3, but it's an acceptable number. And Cheech now switching up in the Men-at-Arms. Viper finally joining the HRE in the Castle Age. What kind of switch up are we going to see? I feel like we're going to actually get Arbors in this game. This has to be an Arbor game, right? Yep, straight into them. So the crossbowmen are going to be super effective against the Men-at-Arms. They also have the ranged armor, so they're better protected against a contingent of archers and Men-at-Arms. But I don't expect that out of HRE. I expect this instead, which is going to be the Springalds. And Springalds, their damage, I think Arbors, yeah, they should be able to tank the shots, right? It's 60 damage. Arbors, of course, up at 80 health. With the deployed Pavis, it's still going to be enough to allow them to tank 2 hits, but it's always going to take 2 hits. And remember, they are crossbows against the Springalds, so if they ever get in range, they will melt through you quickly with that bonus damage versus heavy. Cheech. Just trying to keep the crawl out coming. Sees an opportunity to send the Prelate for the other Relic, so it looks like he will get his 3rd in the end, because now Viper is on the defensive. And Viper, he went greedy. We said he was probably going to do this, the trip TC drop. A little bit more delayed than we maybe would have anticipated, but it's going to give him scalability. The problem is he now needs defensibility. He needs defenses in place to protect him against this assault that's slowly coming towards him. And the one thing that might work out for him is the fact that because it's such a static force, because it's only Men-at-Arms and a Springald, it might just be that Cheech is content in his mind with holding this pass, and that would be a mistake. Because if you scout it out, if you've got that ample vision, what you'd know is that your opponent has gone super greedy with 3 TCs. Because he knows about this one back here. I just don't think Cheech actually got eyeballs on it originally. He has scouted now with the Men-at-Arms, so he does now know it's there. And this is why I expect him to ramp up the aggression a bit. In fact, Blacksmith, yeah, being built now. So he actually wants to get the Rams, I believe. That should be his goal here. Siege Engineering is the most logical move at this stage. It could also be for the Marching Drills. Marching Drills also always an amazing tech to get. But yeah, just the ability to get Baron Rams in the front here could be a big killer. Especially the changes around ranged armor. The Prelate, uh-oh. Gonna go for the wall way too late, though. The Knight's buffed attack is good enough to drop the Prelate where he stands. And this Springald, it could be sniped out. Instead, Viper chooses to run his Knight away. It does draw the main army back, so it alleviates some pressure there. And once again now, in a frustrated situation where Cheech needs to get another Prelate out, right? So he unbanks, runs across. It's going to be wasted time, a little bit inefficiency as a lot of these workers are not going to be buffed. buys Viper a few extra seconds at least, and he's going to need them. You can see he's starting to just ramp up into the infrastructure, gets the blacksmith down. Is this his second? Yes, I was about to say it should be his second one. So he's just looking to double tech up, get everything as quickly as possible, get that quality over quantity situation that he's going to need. I believe, yeah, there's already been upgraded to Veteran Royal Knights. Transition as well as Viper switching over hard into farms now, running out of all the hunted food after gathering all up with the scouts. So he's in a delicate situation right now. Really needs to just field an army that can hold back and keep a threat away from him. And the cool thing for Viper, courtesy of his scouts just getting on this vision, is that Cheech, he knows Cheech is nowhere in the neighborhood. The HRE player is fully backed up. And I think that is once again the difference that we see so frequently here is Viper definitely playing superior vision games. And Cheech trying to match it somewhat with a scout now, but you can see how he's blind spotted here for the most. He doesn't know what's happening back here. He doesn't know how much military infrastructure is there. He doesn't know what kind of army Viper can quickly field. And Viper also finding more value over here with the pocket ecos, right? We said that actually France is the biggest culprit of this. Pocket ecos, typically because your opponent doesn't harass you early on. And at stages in this game, right, like you're up against HRE. You know that there's not going to be any raiding parties. There's not going to be night spams. There's not going to be horsemen. You're only worried about this giant, slow slog towards the location, which means you can always react, always pivot, always move away. And I'm very surprised that Cheech never actually outposted up here. Feels like controlling this piece is going to be a big deal, right? Because you can get close enough to the siege weapons when they push out. At the same time, if they're there, the siege weapons have a natural defense. You have to run around to reach them. In a lot of ways, this could easily decide the game. And I look forward to it if it does, actually. Because I think it'll be a cool fight. And Cheech, up to Imperial Age now. So Viper, kind of just trying to match him, right? This control around the center is just set up for this, the keep drop. He wants to get control of the center gold veins because he knows that's going to matter soon. He's against an HRE player that can keep gathering gold infinitely, courtesy of the Regnus Cathedral efficiently. So what he needs is he actually needs to be able to access this gold pass quickly. So for him, it's all about delaying things. You know he's eco-scaled up, right? He's capable of going up equally into Imperial Age off the back of these free TCs. So for him, he doesn't mind about a late game situation being the way this game is resolved. And if that's the case, he understands that the most critical resource on the map right now is going to be these gold veins in the center. And the crossbow treacle continues. More racks infrastructure going down, so Cheech really not diversifying past what we've seen already. Has juiced his lads up, though, getting all those techs. Two-handed as well as the heavy maces, so these lads should smash pretty hard at this stage. Scout will be scouted out and taken down, so vision control their loss for Viper. Viper, small contingent of Knights and Arbors still so far. Hasn't opted to go into the siege weapons, so he's not trying to mirror match up that. I feel like I want to see someone a little bit extra, though. Like, Viper, what's your va-va-voom? I think for the moment he'll just wait until he can potentially tech up, right? Well, I say that, he's actually dropping more infrastructure, so for him, he's willing to take a fight on the grounds of his opponent being an Imperial Age and him being locked in castle. Brave move. But I guess when you're this far behind, right, like what other choice do you have? You kind of have to just pop cap your army, and then you can think about that economy scaling, right? But for now, you need a big enough influence in the center, militarily, that if your opponent turns up, you can take somewhat of a fight. If you stop now on the unit production, Cheech catches up, and then he runs in with a quality army that also has quantity. And straight in the north, Viper just trying to make sure that he can funnel in his opponent. So he's going to get the walls down. Stonewall moves not really being made by Cheech at all. Cheech just choosing to hold here on the open grounds. Still only one siege workshop as well, so not doubling up that rate of production, but it seems like his wood lines are somewhat limited. He hasn't built forward lumber camps here. He's starting to chip into a new one because he did go for the Palace of Swabia, and this is where he will outscale the economy of Viper, right? Like, Viper up at 119, but if he ever takes a hit into the eco, the recovery rate of Cheech is going to be much quicker. That's the power of the Palace of Swabia. With that quicker production rate, 5 seconds to produce a villager, plus it's only 12 food. You can see the value in this. The only reason that it becomes a conundrum quite often for HRE players is because you get it as an Imperial Age landmark, which means at that stage in the game, you should usually have a bigger economy. But because he played off that one TC, it's a logical investment for the HRE player here. Universities. Have we got universities on both sides? I don't think there was ever a uni being dropped by Viper. Just too pricey for research for him right now, right? He's still concerned with this concept of getting Imperial Age. And then he'll have... wait, what am I talking about? Universities unlocked in Imperial Age. Yes, but even once he gets there, right, he's not going to have the resources. So I don't expect to see that superior tech. And that's another edge that I will give to Cheech, is he can start getting into these expensive Imperial technologies in the university, right? Something that I don't necessarily expect to see out of Viper too quickly, because he's still fielding an army. He's going to have to upgrade them once he reaches Imperial Age. And this is a delicate and fragile point now for Viper. Viper choosing to build the College of Artillery in the center. And look, they've snuck right past the military force. Now, this could backfire if there's enough troops here, because that's going to give him the wraparound. Cheech knocking at the door saying, hello, is Viper home? Can he come out to play? Oh, I don't know if you're going to like him when he does, though. He's going to snipe out the Treacle. He's surrendering a lot of ground here. Military infrastructure being burned. TC is going to be garrisoned. Spring's trying to snipe, and the men-at-arms moving in to the primary TC's location, looking to just scalp some villagers here. And look at the choice by Viper. He says no. He says, screw that. I'm not engaging with it. I'm going straight for your base instead because I have plenty more to get through than you do. But Cheech definitely has a head start. Men-at-arms already through one of these TCs. Stragglers running rampant through the economy. He's going to force Viper to garrison all over the place. He pushes in, though. He's got both sacred sites, and it's all just about delaying and forcing his opponent back to the center to decap those while he deals with HRE's base. Cheech on the retreat as his cheeks are going to get slapped here. And he's not really finding the eco he wanted. Viper, he's like, where the hell's the expansion? He's looking in the wrong places here. If he went deeper, he'd find it. Because Cheech, he expanded top right here, which means that his future production, his future military infrastructure is just protected. And that results in a move back by Viper. Viper looking to prioritize the sacred sites. And Cheech moving his main army back right now in slow-mo. As I accidentally have it in slow-mo. I wondered why for a second. So, he has diverted half his military force from the siege to the center to decap here. And that's where Viper has the advantage. Will he engage, though? The Arbors are too slow. But Sacred Site was not decapped, remember. Cheech still in problem town here. He's going to leave a few men-at-arms behind and move his Springles across to try and take this main fight. This could be a very decisive moment. He needs to get Viper off of these Sacred Sites. He's definitely done decent eco damage. In fact, Viper, he's at 113, but he should have been at, what, 130, 140 almost at that stage. So he definitely lost some villages, definitely lost some important infrastructure. But Cheech still suffering in that regard. 73 economy. Trailing a decent amount behind Viper at this stage. I'll try to decap the Sacred Site. But they don't hang around. A little bit paranoid about the state of things, Cheech, right now. I don't know if he fully realizes that he's still actually stronger at the moment, but this time that's been bought, it's giving the room for Viper to start teching up. He needs to tech up the Arbors, and I actually like his chances here. The problem is all of his archery ranges are being burnt to a crisp. So he wouldn't have had a chance to actually get the researchers out quick enough, let alone the reload time one. So these Arbors are not the quality unit you'd expect against the men-at-arms. They're actually going to be noticeably weaker against the 7 shield resistance as well as 200 plus health on these lads. And that will allow Cheech to decap. Second keep going down, Viper just trying to protect his central military infrastructure as he did start to build it up here. And he's starting to bring out the cannons now. Royal Culverins, pretty effective against the Springles. Now remember, they did actually fix this for France. France before, their Royal versions were not getting the extra 20% damage. That has now been fixed. So these Culverins pound much harder. Knights in the main base, looking to get rid of these men-at-arms. We'll charge in. Cavalry not looking too good though, they're outnumbered. These men-at-arms hold their ground pretty well. And Viper is definitely going to lose out here. Just getting rinsed through. 2 spearmen also just causing trouble there. Needed more knights before attempting this. He's going to be forced to engage once more. It gets them in range of the TC at least, so they have that edge to help them out. And may find the center. Bang rounds built. Cheech moving in, trying to get through the keeps. And they will raise it to the ground. 42 men at arms. They're going to force the engagement on their terms. Repairs trying to keep it up. Spiral's looking to snipe down troops. Arbors looking for the cutoff. We'll just settle for the Rams instead. So men-at-arms get out. None of them lost. Not one at all. Heavy injuries, though. And the main base force has been dealt with. So Viper repels his opponent out, can start to rebuild out here. Needs to rebank these relics as well at some stage. And you can see Cheech, he was going for the full move. He's actually trying to bank them in a monastery of his own. Just wants that maximum efficiency of a little bit extra gold. But more battering rams being built in the center. Cheech understands if he wants to win this match, he needs to take the center. He can't risk what happened last time, where his opponent sneaks into his base, because that time Viper might just go straight for the throat and go straight for the landmarks. This is buying plenty of time for the Culverins to come out. These Culverins that have superior range. Actually, no, the Springs have been upgraded to have the right range as well. But they're not engaging, so Cheech is going to back up. Nice wrapping. Monastery does go down, so we'll try and actually garrison those relics if he can. Means he's diverting his force, so he's getting a little bit split here, and this might be exploitable by Viper. Viper, even the village is involved in the mix. And that small men-at-arms army needs to get out quick. Kind of getting overwhelmed here by the elite arbors. No solution to it at the moment from Cheech. Cheech in a bit of trouble here. Men-at-arms was great up until this stage, but once the elite arbors are on the field, you're in trouble. He really needs a different unit type, but he still refuses to switch up. Or rather switch out in this situation. Sovereigns. Pretty tanky. It's taking the Springles ages to get through them. Men-at-arms engaging. Crossbow standing their ground. Knights with a pincher. Getting around the back. Trying to just force an engagement where they can't retreat. Cheech spreads out the lines. Might be spreading his cheeks though. Arbors back up into a choke point, which means they'll clean up the men-at-arms that are harassing them, and then they could turn around and assist the Knights. The Knights, in the meantime, splitting up into two forces. Springald snipers and men-at-arms attackers. The men-at-arms almost through the Knights, but they're almost through with themselves as the Arbors are just cleaning them up. And barely any Springals left either. They'll at least save two of them, but with so few men-at-arms left and with so many Arbors still in the field, Viper definitely taking the edge here, and Cheech, not able to reinforce quick enough, is going to have to back up. Pushing him out. Battering rams, just a complete waste of value at this stage. And Cheech, he'll kind of wish that he continued to aggress on the main base after all this. Yeah, you were on the clock. Yeah, there was a Sacred Site victory condition. But when we look back at this game, if you think about it, Cheech could have ended the game if he assaulted through and just burnt all the landmarks quickly. And he definitely had the ability to, considering Viper's big mistake in this game was building a lot of his military infrastructure at the front. When he lost that military district, that could have spelled doom for him. But Cheech didn't have the confidence to go deeper. He didn't know what we did. He did not have that God vision. And as we mentioned earlier, he did not have that superior scouting vision to get the heads-up play and make the heads-up play to win this game. And as a result, now Viper having him up against the ropes. Viper doesn't mind just settling for the outpost burn down at the moment while he rebuilds his Knight line and gets more Arbors out. In fact, I doubt he even goes into Knights at this stage. You just saw how effective they can be against the men-at-arms. If you amass Arbors, though, get plenty of crossbows in this situation, you just melt through your opponent. So I think it's going to be a small contingent of Knights, just as cannon fodder, and then a heavy investment into that archer line, or rather that crossbow line. Sacred Site recapped. Keep drop coming out. Cheech trying to use that formidable power of the HRE. Did get tweaked now so that before there was an issue where actually HRE keeps had more ranged armor. They're actually fixed to have the same amount now. Men-at-arms forced an engagement. The Arbors with the split up though, can't get on top of them, can't stay on top of them. And with the Knights wrapping up on top of their corpses, they're going to be able to take that fight. And that did buy time for the keep to go down. But how much value is this keep really going to be? Sacred Site is still under the control of Viper. That's all that matters for him right now. There's no assault on the north, so Cheech forced into a do or die here. As that counter is still ticking down. Sadly, we do not actually have a way of showing it to you. So apologies for that, folks. Hopefully they actually add that soon. And I like this move by Cheech, trying to get second keep down. If this works, he'll actually have a strong arm position to take control of the Sacred Site. Because it'll be very hard for Viper to dive under two of these keeps at the same time. Even with an army this big. He'll buy his time. We'll begin the decap now. Cheech moving straight through to Viper's base. That's a bold move, Con. Let's see if it pays off. Forced to fight here, though. The Knights charge in. Sees an opportunity on the Arbor line, but remember these crossbows, they do not care. They trade out effectively, and plenty of these men-at-arms are falling. Cheech in a bit of trouble. Cannons now being built, so the keeps need to be repaired, so villagers are going to be preoccupied with that. And the main men-at-arms army gone. I just don't know how Cheech does this anymore. He still is just stubbornly just thumping his head against a stone wall, hoping to break through it. As Men-at-Arms is the only unit he's trickling out here. I've heard of in for a penny, in for a pound, but this is how you go bankrupt. Constant repairing. Never able to decap the Sacred Site, though. Viper? I don't know if this was intentional. It seems like an accidental send-in of the archers here. Maybe you want to free up some pop cap. Maybe you want to get that glorious number of 169. Third keep, Cheech. I mean, I don't know if he thinks Viper's getting reinforcements from his base. That's just not the case. So this third keep, still not helping him get control of the Sacred Site at all. It will create a path towards Viper's economy. But that just doesn't matter. For Viper now, he just plays to end the game around the Sacred Site, right? That's the primary concern for him. And, oh, sniping, roll cannon. It does fall. Viper didn't keep backing it up, so the men-at-arms give their life for the cause. It comes out valuable. And now push in. Keep already down defensively from Viper, though, so he's protected against the men-at-arms. That means any attempt by Cheech to try and snipe that economy further is going to be a hard fail. So they're more or less matched. 10 villages between them, both of them over 100, so they're able to sustain the military output. And you can see there's plenty of military output in the center for Viper. So many buildings here. That spam's going to be non-stop. And it really is going to come down to this one sacred site. Cheech still not moving into it. Instead, it's going to be moving out Viper first. Viper, almost pop cap, decides to move in. He catches the Treaklers. And with his superior force of knights, the men-at-arms cannot trade favorably at all. They just have to try and retreat away. Half of them still waypointed towards their death at this stage. And his economy is going to be exposed. A lot of farmlands here that can be sniped down. But Viper instead chooses to go for the military production buildings. Turns around, starts burning up those racks. Doing what his opponent cannot, because remember, Viper, he defended his base. Cheech did not. He was all in on this keep drop near the sacred site, which means he has no way to prevent an assault on his main base. And if you assault his main base, you stop him from even decapping the sacred site, as he has barely any troops out in the field. Crossbow line, a little bit exposed. Knights are going to engage from the high ground. Vision advantage, they're going to be pinched in the middle here. Knights being split into two groups to create that space that the Arbors can exploit. And with their crossbows, they will push and pierce straight through these men-at-arms quickly. And look at this small cluster. Just holding back all the reinforcements. Cheech going to lose his main force in the center. Cannons slowly sniping down the keeps. No villages to repair it here. And it looks like this just might be the moment where Cheech realizes it. I mean, he has to realize there's no way through this anymore, right? He still refuses to switch up. This might be his one opportunity to change something, to switch it out, to go with a different unit type. But I feel like it's just too late at this stage. Actually, Spearman would have been fantastic here. Cost effective, quick on the production, solves everything that Viper is throwing at you. But Cheech never upgraded them. He could have got so much value with the riveted chainmail as well. But he just stuck with man-at-arms, and now he's slowly losing his base. And Viper, what a play. What a play into the center here, not just for the gold veins, but also identifies that it's more important to have his military production protected here. Never any attempt by Cheech to wrap around to the north. Fatal error, in my opinion. And definitely the biggest fatal error of all was just this man-at-arm spam, non-stop. So many barracks is here. And the thing was that Viper, if he ever had any doubt about whether this was the right composition of units, the moment he ran into his opponent's base and saw 1,000,001 Raxes, he got the tick box. He got the confirmation that he was making the right move. And it looks like this will end up ticking out, probably due to Sacred Site victory in the end. But Cheech, man, most people would have just tapped out. He just seems to be stubbornly stuck in it, probably reflecting his mind where it went wrong. We already highlighted the main details, though. You need to transition. You need a composition. You started off with a composition of Spirals and Men-at-Arms, but then you go heavy into heavy Mace Smash Face. And well, the only one who's getting his cheeks clapped at the end of the day, my friend, is going to be you.